The GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. Before we get into our second segment, which should be a good IDP player profile that we can dive into, I want to remind you yet again that if you do feel so inclined, please consider leaving a tip or donation at the link GSMC at Cloud. It is a huge support to both me, my fellow podcasters, and ultimately the network as a whole. You can also leave questions, comments, or concerns there as well, and they will be answered and addressed at the beginning of the next episode. So without further ado, let's jump right into our second segment of the day, our first IDP player profile of the day. For a guy on a defense that's really looking to take that next step into becoming one of the better defensive units in the entire NFL. They're locking down players and contract extensions left and right. But this guy kind of got lost in all the chaos of that a little bit. And he's in one of their best cores on the team in terms of the linebacker position. And I feel like he's the most versatile out of all these linebackers who are really excellent at one specific thing. And I just feel like he needs to be recognized. Without further ado, let's jump right into the player profile of the other, quote-unquote, Josh Allen. I think that the main reason that Josh Allen, the Jaguars defense as a whole, really kind of gets overlooked is because when you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, you think about this kind of transitional period on offense. You really are focused on the goings-on of Trevor Lawrence and how he's connecting to Doug Peterson and how that kind of coalition is working. When you look at the Jacksonville defense, they have a lot of really nice pieces to it. And no group is better, in my humble opinion, in this defensive front than the linebackers. So maybe that's why a lot of people don't really know the quote-unquote other Josh Allen. But I am here to tell you the main reason why he should be recognized, and he should be a high draft pick in IDP leagues everywhere. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Throughout his career, he's accumulated 538.8 fantasy points. His best season was last year with a whopping 161.6 fantasy points. 43 solo tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 33 QB hits, 1 passes defended, and 18 sacks. So that stat line is something you would expect out of like a TJ Watt or a Micah Parsons at the linebacker position. So the fact that I'm telling this is Josh Allen should really pique your interest. But here's why, like I said, he's gone under the radar. The Jaguars play a 3-4 defense. So you're expected as a linebacker to really help that production in a defensive front because there's more of you on the field. There's not as much interior edge presence that you get from a 4-3 defense, so your primary responsibility is to understand every facet of what the opposing offense is doing, because you could be the center of attention should your front three not get the penetration that you like. And so, looking at this Jaguars linebacking group, this kind of core 4 players, there really is not one weak spot. There are certainly players who may have performed up to par, but all 4 of these guys have to some extent quote-unquote made names themselves or are known in this league, or should be known by all in this league. We have Josh Allen. Then you have Foye Oluokun, who we'll talk about a little bit tomorrow, who might be one of, if not the best pure tackler in the NFL. Always sits around the 100 tackle mark when all is said and done. Just a really exciting inside linebacker. Then you have Devin Lloyd, still a young guy, still developing, more of a rangy linebacker type. I like him more as a coverage man. And then you have Trayvon Walker, who has not really lived up to his number 1 overall draft pick billing yet, but I still think the sky's the limit for the kid, and he definitely feels like he has a high ceiling, and they trusted him. So overall, when you look at this linebacking group, Josh Allen kind of falls back a little bit. But here's why there's a silver lining to all this, and why I think he's the best one out of them all, even though we're going to talk a little bit about why Foyo Iwokun could be tomorrow. As a 3-4 or a 3-4 defender, depending on where you align as a linebacker, whether it be on the outside or on the interior, the ultimate goal is to do three things: blitz, cover, and most importantly, spy. Because you don't have that much reliance on your front three, and you essentially become more of a part of the secondary because there's more emphasis on stopping the pass in a 3-4 defense. Josh Allen, in my humble opinion, as an outside linebacker, especially someone who might often play on the right side, so kind of a blind spot for opposing quarterbacks, has the ultimate ability to do all three of those things. He has the ultimate opportunity to really integrate himself into all three aspects of what is required of a 3-4 linebacker. Foyo Iwokun, as we see, gets a lot of stat production. We'll talk about his stats tomorrow. But a lot of it comes from making a last effort tackle. So too perhaps with Trayvon Walker, although I feel like he definitely has more pass rush savvy and is a little bit more versatile in his style of play than Iwokun. And then Devin Lloyd, obviously, he's a little bit more of a lankier guy, a rangier guy who can play coverage. Which means that out of all four of these guys, each one of them has a specific trait that they can focus on in terms of distributing who is responsible for which role in this 3-4 defense. But Josh Allen combines all three so well because of his ability from that kind of blindside spot to really diagnose what this offense is doing. And what separates him and, say, Trayvon Walker, and the reason why Trayvon Walker may not have lived up to his expectations, is that Josh Allen kind of came into the system as a guy who might have been focused on performing one of those tasks. He might have been asked to blitz all the time. But over time, as the Jaguars really focused on this linebacker core and really decided, hey, the true depth of our defense, the true experience of our defense can come from our linebackers. We can build a really scary group here. Get back to, say, the times that Miles Jack and I keep on forgetting his name, AJ something, those two guys were playing, then we can be truly building something here. And so, I feel like once they diagnosed their linebacker core as the group they wanted to build around defensively, they said, why not focus on truly developing Josh Allen into a guy who can do it all, and then supplement him with pieces that really fit the way we want to play. Let's get a guy who's a tackler, Foyo Iwokun. Let's get a guy who can kind of drop back in coverage, Lloyd. And then get a guy who can also help in the blitz, in Walker. And so, I'm really, really, really fascinated and hyped about what this Jacksonville Jaguars defense is going to bring to the table this year. Especially concerning Josh Allen, because when you have a player at the linebacker position who seemingly is going under the radar but putting up these fascinating numbers, and is doing it in a defense that really hones in on the versatility of his skill set. I'm just excited to see how high he can go, how far he can jump, and I really believe that this defensive unit often doesn't get the respect it deserves. Now, the caveat of all of this is that maybe one person like Trayvon Walker suddenly, as the quote-unquote special blitzer, the one skill guy, suddenly evolves and gets a little bit more production than Josh Allen. Let's say, Devin Lloyd becomes an interception machine. Then you can think of Josh Allen a little bit lesser, maybe, because you now have these guys that can wear so many different hats that might be more attractive stat-wise in terms of an IDP league. However, though, when all is said and done, the player who should get all the plaudits is Allen, because not only is he doing something for this defense that requires so much intelligence and understanding about the linebacker position, a lot of small details kind of fall to the wayside. Josh Allen is certainly one of the more nuanced players, but people don't often recognize that, mainly because of you try to avoid certain players' deficiencies. But Josh Allen, I don't necessarily think is deficient anywhere as a linebacker. I think in this Jaguars defense, he's the do-it-all everyman who just makes sure that everything is interconnected. At the end of the day, he's going to put up the stats. He's going to be an appealing option when all of these other high-end linebackers are gone, but it's always going to be on the table. So don't forget the name Josh Allen if you're an IDP fan and you're looking for someone at the linebacker position. That will just about do it for this segment. Coming next, we transition to a young edge rusher who had an astonishing rookie year last year and is looking to build upon it as new pieces get added to his defense. We'll be right back to discuss him on the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk?